Hello, Thursday, June 30th. Just giving you a chicken coop update. Now, we've had this kit for 2 months, maybe over 2 months, not been able to get to it. Fortunately, my husband said enough of that, and we came out here and spent most of this past Saturday working on it until he was asking me, you ready to stop? And I was like, no, let's finish the roof. We had everything up but the roof at that point. And a few minutes later, he's like, you ready to stop? I was like, oh, why don't you just say stop? I guess men don't want to be the ones to call things to a halt. So I was like, yeah, we'll stop. But I was hoping to get the roof up so we can put things in here. But we hauled stuff back inside, so in case it rained before we can get back out, because there's no telling when you stop when we can get back to it. Ooh, interesting. But we deliberately kept these back panels off because I will probably use 2x2s and frame some hardware cloth in these openings so there's ventilation. And here it is, end of June. It's getting very hot here, upper 80s, some 90s. And this is in the shade most of the day. For a few hours it's not in the shade, but even then, it's heat that we have to worry about more than keeping them warm in the winters. But I plan on putting the partition wall about 3 feet back from the door, so they'll have about almost 5 feet of roosting space, and the nesting boxes will come out over here and I can access them. That's what I'm going to use for the base. I'll show you the ones I've already did that's in the current coop. And this hole over here will get the door so they can go out into a run that we've got the run in the old chicken coop. Now the problem here is the dirt is very, very soft here. It's easy for any critter to dig under and get at the chicken. So I'm going to have to use gravel or bricks. I got bricks now, and eventually I think move it to the gravel. But anyway, put the bricks out from there, or maybe lay down a fence. I got plenty of chicken wire that I'm not going to reuse, because chicken wire is only good for keeping chickens in or out of a location. Most predators, raccoons, possum, dogs, can go through chicken wire, tear it up. So the run will be over here, and I'm not too worried about something digging under into the run, but into the coop I am. So I probably will have to close the door at night and then let them out in the morning again. But this will be where their roost is. I still have the 2 panels, there they are, that would have gone over here. I may use them as a roof over here in their run to put their food and water under, so those don't get, I guess the water doesn't have to be under there, but the food, yes, because it will get wet and clogged up. Still got to get the doors on. Saturday, we were literally, we emptied the box. My husband had unloaded the box onto a pallet, and it had sat there for about a month like that in the box. And the interior metal pieces that you see that's shiny were impressed with their numbers, part numbers. The paneling that's all around the outside was inked. So you can see it in the corner over there on the edge, on the sides. And most of that had washed off, just faded out, washed, Anyway, so we had a little puzzle putting things together, especially on the exterior. And originally we just laid everything out there, but that's where it gets the most sun. So then we ended up moving things over here, and then we wanted to stop. We had to move things off because our son wasn't home, and we were scared he was going to come home and drive down this way to get to the garage and run over the parts before he could see that there was something there. which is never wise to put stuff in the driveway and leave it there. I saw Tina making quail cages, and she went out and bought binder clip, the binders for those book report things that we used to do in school, and these were part of the kit, and we were instructed to put them on the gables. They just go over, because that's where most of their injuries, I guess the complaints, so they were left on there until we were ready to screw in this roof piece, and then took it out, and I'm like, there's got to be a use for that. And already I was like, oh, after I saw what Tina did, I was like, immediately thought of these things, saying I can put these in the, I'm missing one. Oh, there it is. There's 4. I can use these to wrap around the hardware cloth that I've cut. So, make sure I save these. So that's another thing that I will be doing. Now, if you go and price pre-made coops, you're not going to find a decent sized one under $300. This shed was $289 on sale, and it's on sale often at that price. It's a little over $300 regularly, and it's 10 foot wide, 8 feet deep. And they also have one, basically the same thing, but it's 16 feet deep, and I think they have a 12 foot deep one also. But when you price it and then do the square footage, this is probably the best deal. The $289 for the 80 square feet inside. And what I spent on this shack of a coop, and it's still not finished with the roof, and that's not including the metal roof that will eventually get on there when I dismantle the old coop that they were in earlier this year. This cost me about $300. It doesn't look it. It did. It could have been a little bit cheaper if I used plywood, but because I was doing this project basically on my own, I had the guys help me get the panels up here, and the 5 panels we bought from the local feed place. That was another $250, because additional 1 panel, so that we've got the normal, there's the 3 panels of this and the gate panel, and it was a little under $200, and she just charged another $50 for an additional panel, so I can have a 10 by 20 roughly, 10 foot wide. It's 8 foot over on this end, 10 foot on that end. And then I bought this 2x4 welded wire fence for over the top. We've been very fortunate, not had any problems with any sort of predator trying to get into them that I can see. I noticed some signs at the little coop down there that maybe a rodent was digging in at night to get to the feed that's in there. So I try to block that up, but I've not seen them. They've not been hurt. And the plan is to get the new coop, the run and everything set up, move those juveniles in that coop that I was just talking about with the rodent issues, move them in there, and a day or two later move these over there with them. And I was going to keep the rooster here and get this cleaned out and put the juvenile silkies with him, but he seems to be, he's not aggressive toward me, but he seems to have his favorites in the harem, and I didn't want to take this mature rooster and put him with these much younger, not ready to breed yet, and I'm not sure if there's any roosters in that batch either. So I'm going to move him over there with his harem and have his new girls, and then get this cleaned out really well, and then move the silky chicks over here, and when they're mature enough, I'll move the rooster back over here with them. Been eating watermelon with that watermelon cake, so they've been enjoying that. Oh, I sit in the shade. The tarp makes a difference. They need that. Their normal body temperature is like 100 degrees when they're healthy, but they need to be able to get out of the sun when there's times like that. They drink from that water, but it's there for them to stand in. And I started using the water cups. I'm in the process of making more of those. I'm going to have them outside the run so I can fill up the water without going in. And I still want to do something like that with the feed, where I don't have to go in and take all that apart and reload that bucket for the feed. Oh, that got away. Should have been faster. But and raising them, the bricks raise it up. Otherwise, even with those are a little bit taller, those rubber feeds are taller, when they scratch around it, they will literally load it up with whatever dirt and everything around it and cover the food, or get it all into the water and clog it up. And those water buckets I made, they worked sometimes. If I didn't seal the top just right, it would just pour all out. So that's why I went to the water cups. And they use it, but I need to get more. There's 12 birds in here, and it's 1 water cup and those waters, so that's 6 gallons right there. So it's still a learning process, and hopefully the water cups is the end of my watering adventure. I've got poultry nipples on the bottoms of some buckets, and I will set those up too, because I just want, especially again, the heat here is what we have to be concerned about, and having multiple sources of them getting water. So there will always be fresh water in the ones with the poultry nipples, but they also like to get their beaks into the water. Like eating the watermelon over there, the sides of their beaks get sticky, and then when they go pecking in the dirt, they get sand on it, and they're brushing it off, and they do go into the water, and you'll see them swishing their beaks in the water to get things cleared off. Now here's I hope I don't scare one. Oh, hey Goldie, there you are. See her neck? The rooster's been a little too aggressive. Here's why. One of our hens is laying a very thin-shelled egg. And this is what's happened. This is why I have these. Let me pause this while I clean this mess up. I will take this down and spray this out. But if it was just in the wood down there, that's harder to take apart and clean and sanitize. And fortunately, these birds are not in the habit of sleeping in their nesting boxes. If you have juvenile chickens that you're raising and you have a coop where there's nesting boxes, block those boxes off until they're mature enough. I know they're fussing at me because I'm out here. Until they're mature enough to lay eggs, because if they get in the habit of sleeping in the nesting boxes, they're not really brooding, even though they're sleeping in it at night, and when they sleep, they just defecate wherever they're at. So wherever the roost is, there's going to be lots of poop underneath. But if they're in the boxes, it's going to be a really big mess, and you won't ever get clean eggs, because there's always fresh poop in there when they come in there and they lay eggs. So keep them blocked off. Is that enough? Yeah, she doesn't like that. Took away the nesting box. But having these, and these cost a little bit more. This black ones are taller than those white ones I just showed, so they don't need to be that tall. And I've used different types of bedding, and so far this combination of sawdust, wood chips seems to be working the best. And see, look, there's wetness or poop or something. And a lot of times, if it wasn't so bad, I could have just picked up the sawdust, but I hadn't been replenishing sawdust because I'm planning on cleaning all this out well. And you want to get that cleared up as soon as possible. You don't want any chickens getting in the habit of eating the eggs, because that's a bad thing to get started too. But as long as I found out that's not an issue, as long as they have food out there. When we were feeding them just twice a day, just coming out and tossing them feed, we kind of suspected one was an egg eater. She's not in the flock anymore, but having feed all the time seemed to have stopped it. Okay, I'm sorry. And I need to get them some more diatomaceous earth and just kind of dig a little circular hole that what they would do naturally, just kind of digging into the ground so they can dust bathe. Now I tried putting them in one of those things, but they don't seem to like to be in that. They want to get their feet down deeper. Goodness. These are worth it. I've got several of these located where I keep their feed buckets. Dollar Tree added the hook so I can close up the lids. These little lids, gasketed. The gamma lids did not work. You have to screw those on very, very tight to keep the water from going in. But if water sits on them, that's a problem. Now, if I use these buckets inside of a shed where the rain wasn't going to get on top of them, the gamma lids would be fine for that. But this will be the silky coop, and the goal is to have the silky flock laying their eggs, hopefully rooting out the more silky chicks that will go into for resale or to freezer camp. So whatever roosters I've got now of the 7 juveniles will end up in freezer camp. And then I'll do a video on making the Korean chicken and rice samgyeopsal soup. So that's on the agenda, along with so many other things. And we have room over there, so if I wanted to do another shed, which we will do in the fall or winter when it's colder and cooler, because it was just, we were staying hydrated, drinking lots of water while we were working on this, but it was not easy. It was very miserable. It was, we were both drenched and filthy, and because we knew once we stopped, then we're going to get cleaned up, and we weren't coming back out for a while. And we came out Monday night and finished the roof, and it still needs to get some the trim in the doors, and I'm not sure what else. And then me working on the partition wall and door inside there, along with the nesting boxes, and clean up. Oh, I was looking at and reading the reviews of all the anchoring kits, because I owned one of these many years ago. Bought from Lowe's, put it in my parents' backyard, and put stuff in there for my storage. And Hurricane Hugo came through and it literally just left everything in the shed alone. It was all there, but it just got water damage. It was drenched, and picked up the shed and put it over the fence into our neighbor's backyard. It wasn't anchored. I tried to weigh things down on the inside. It didn't have flooring. I mean, I couldn't afford it. So I was doing the reviews for all the anchor kits, and we've got cables, and reading the reviews, a lot of them, the anchors that had this type of like on this T-post here, there was complaint that they fell apart. They weren't made well enough. And this is much cheaper. The cheapest anchoring kit thing that came with cables and everything, and for the tie downs like this, or what this would be used in place of, the cheapest one was $40. These were, I think, $1 something, like about $2 each, $8. I'll put them at the first ridge end on both sides and put the cabling through. So the T-post will go down in here, and put the cabling through here and under the I-beams, the 3 I-beams, and then down on the other side to the T-post on that side. And the frame that I'm going to make will be inside, will be in here, and I'll drill some through this metal and put some screws into it. So it will be attached firmly to this, and there'll be 2 by 2 top and bottom and sides on all 4 panels. And the bottom one over there will be done a little differently. I'm not sure how I'm going to do the door on it just yet, but I'll be praying and looking and killing more time online trying to find the best way to do that. And it tells you when you first do the floor to measure from diagonally from corner to corner and get those measurements equal so that you've got this square. Don't bother. Seriously, just skip that, because when we're putting the roof on, we had to push it back one way or the other trying to get the holes to line up. And this is what it doesn't look square to me. I don't know. We might be able to wiggle it and make it a little bit better, but it was a waste of time doing all of that and getting everything lined up and then trying to keep it squared. And you see this has got pushed from the other side over to line up the roof panels. Got a little corn spider, riding spider, called different names here. That's a small one. Normally they get much, much bigger than that. I let them be. I like them to have their little area. But we'll run. I've got 2 dog kennels that make the old coop. Let me go show you. Look how nice and green it got in there. So I got a 12x6 dog kennel for $50 off of a group in Facebook. Just went in there in search of outdoor dog run kennel, and a lady had one. It's got holes that were patched up that we patched up again, and then we bought another one, 10x10 from the feed store, and this is what I rigged together last year. And so I've got the lumber's already in there, most of which I need. I can just take apart, but just got to get in there. And I can't move the panels by myself, so the guys will have to do that for me. And then I've got the 16-foot long hog panels, which are the cheapest. They're like $16 at Tractor Supply, that I used at the top to try to keep. We knew we had possums and raccoons out here to keep them from getting in, so we didn't have any problems. And initially I was locking them up in this 12x12 space here that's separate. You can see the gates on the other side, the 6-foot gate, and then I've got the 6-foot back part on that side. So I'm going to reuse all this for the new run at that metal shed coop, and then the metal roof on top of here, those 2 pieces right there, will be the roof. I don't know if you noticed that the wood ran longer than the bracing, the supports or whatever, rafters were longer than the pieces of wood I put in there, and I only put the wood on top because, and it's going to bother me at the with the new coop. I may put some insulation up there, some of that thin foam stuff I can stick up there, because it makes so much noise when it rains if you're under it. But they probably don't care. But we had to move them from here because my husband wanted to raise the shipping containers and level them and do all sorts of stuff. And I had it all braced there, and then I had lined the bricks over there so that chickens couldn't crawl in or something crawl through there. And the cats and I think a possum have made their homes under the containers, so they couldn't stay down here. And thanks to, see, look at the difference where the chickens were, where they weren't, and then you can see the trail where the water from there had come. So having them work an area, and that's what I'm thinking about, making chicken tractors for the older retired birds and putting them out to do their thing and not worry about egg collection or anything, because they're not producing any eggs. They're past that. But this is the rest of it. So $250 plus 32, no, something like that for the hog panels, the runs. So I got to play with the different configurations to figure out what, how I'm going to do that. And I also want to make another area, a separate area, so when we start hatching out roosters, to go ahead and get them into a different area for freezer camp. Because I want to start producing our own meat, not just the eggs. I want to start producing our meats from the silkies and regular, and try to sell the females for other people. Some of the roosters too. If someone wants them, I'll be glad to sell it to them. But we'll probably put some females into freezer camp too. After a certain point, if they're not sold before they start laying, I don't need so many layers. Let's see, we've got 9 that should be laying, and 6 more coming up. So this is what's going on with the chicken coop and things that have to be done. And this is the part where I will need the help of my guys, because there's no way I can move the panels. I'll try to dismantle the roof, the screen. It's a lot of excuse me, fence wire and zip ties that I use. So I have to cut all the zip ties, and I screwed the roof onto the metal frame up there, so that's got to be taken care of, and then I can reuse that. And this is something that we had from a shed, that big building that we had built at our other property that was left over, and we asked them, we paid for it, so please leave it, and we'll put it to some use. And it sat there for 10 years until I finally used it here. So I gotta quit getting overwhelmed, one step at a time, and just think about the next step. And that's something that I'm learning, because when I get overwhelmed, things don't happen. I just kind of shut down. Or I switch tracks and work on something else that isn't overwhelming me, and then the other project kind of sits there. So I got the bad habits, time to change them. So that's what's going on with our chickens. Thanks for watching.